Before thought existed, there was already something watching. Before the mind could describe what it saw, awareness was present as a quiet pulse beneath every heartbeat. That presence has never left you. It is not born with the body, and it does not end with the body. It is the constant witness behind every experience you have ever had. Most people spend their lives trying to think their way back to peace, not realizing that peace was the space in which every thought appeared. You do not have to reach awareness, you only have to stop moving away from it. The mind believes it is the observer, but it is only the reflection. The real observer is silent, without history, without identity. It does not try to fix or control because it knows everything is already being seen. In that seeing, transformation begins on its own. Every thought, every emotion, every small reaction arises inside this field of perception. The field does not interfere, it simply allows. When you remember this, the struggle to change your state ends. You start to notice that everything you were trying to manage is already unfolding in perfect intelligence. The moment you stop naming an experience, the experience reveals its true texture. Fear becomes energy moving through the chest, not an enemy. Sadness becomes a soft contraction that asks to be felt, not a story of loss. When you witness without trying to edit what you see, the movement of life returns to harmony. Observation is not passive, it is the most active force in existence. In quantum physics, the act of observing determines the form energy takes. In consciousness, the act of pure awareness determines the reality you inhabit. The field reads your state, not your words. If you look through the lens of tension, reality tightens. If you see through stillness, reality expands. This is why silence is powerful. It does not change the world by force, it changes the lens through which the world appears. You can test this in your own body. Sit still for a moment and notice the subtle hum beneath your thoughts. That hum has been there since before your first memory. It has watched every victory, every loss, every quiet night of doubt, and still remained unchanged. You have called it many names, soul, presence, consciousness, but none of those labels can contain it. It is the awareness that hears the heartbeat and the space in which the heartbeat happens. When you rest there, a subtle clarity emerges. You begin to see that you are not thinking, you are being thought. Every idea, every impulse arises spontaneously from the same silence that observes it. There is no controller, only currents of attention moving through the vastness of perception. The mind resists this truth because it wants to own everything it sees, but ownership creates distortion. The moment you claim an experience, you turn it into a story, and the story hides the raw light beneath it. The observer remains unbothered by stories. It watches the rise and fall of them as easily as the ocean watches waves. Nothing needs to be corrected because nothing was ever wrong. The apparent chaos of life is simply the rhythm of energy expressing itself. When you watch closely, the pattern begins to reveal order. Every contraction leads to release, every noise dissolves into quiet. Every question circles back to awareness itself. You have never been outside that pattern. The reason awareness feels distant is because you are identified with the movement instead of the stillness containing it. Imagine sitting beside a river. Thoughts flow like water. If you jump in, you are carried away by current. If you remain on the bank, you see the flow without losing yourself to it. Awareness is the riverbank. Mind is the current. The body is the earth that holds them both. The more you identify with the silent witness, the more natural detachment becomes. Detachment is not indifference, it is intimacy without ownership. It allows you to feel everything fully while remaining free from it. In that freedom, your perception sharpens. You begin to see detail that the restless mind never noticed the warmth in the air, the vibration between words, the subtle movement of breath through the heart. These are not small things, they are gateways to coherence. The universe is not asking you to escape life, but to see it with unbroken attention. Every time you return to observation, the structure of reality recalibrates around you. The field mirrors your neutrality by softening. People respond differently. Circumstances untangle. The same world begins to move with you instead of against you. Nothing external changed, only your position within awareness did. To live as the silent observer is to remember your original posture towards existence. Before you became someone with opinions and history, you were simply the space through which life was known. That is what the body feels when it finally relaxes, the remembrance of home. Awareness is not an achievement or a state to maintain. It is the natural gravity of consciousness. When you stop interfering, it pulls you back into center. In that center, perception and reality merge. The seer and the seen dissolve into one flow of knowing. What remains is not emptiness, but fullness, so complete that nothing needs to be added. This is the eye before thought, the witness that never closes. The entire journey of awakening is simply learning to stay where you already are. Awareness does not need effort to exist, it only needs space to unfold. Every moment you try to manage or improve awareness, you have already stepped away from it. Observation becomes interference the instant you want an outcome. The silent observer watches without agenda. It does not measure right or wrong. It does not calculate gain or loss. It only sees. That seeing is power because it dissolves distortion. The universe responds not to the words you speak, but to the quality of the space inside which those words are born. When awareness is pure, reality arranges itself with the same clarity. When awareness is clouded, everything bends to match the fog. This is the reason presence changes the atmosphere of a room. A person who sees without judgment creates coherence in their surroundings. Others feel calm, not because of what was said, but because of what was not resisted. The stillness within one nervous system communicates silently with the others around it. Coherence travels faster than language. The body of the observer becomes a transmitter of order. But most people do not realize how often they interrupt this natural intelligence. Every time you rush to label an experience, you create friction between what is happening and what you believe should happen. The friction is not in the world, it is in perception. Awareness that stops interfering allows the energy of life to complete its own cycle. A feeling that is seen completely dissolves on its own. A thought that is recognized loses its grip. You do not need to fix vibration, you need to stop breaking it. The field knows how to restore balance once you stop distorting it with resistance. You can sense this if you pay attention. When a strong emotion rises, your instinct is to tighten. The muscles in your stomach contract, your breath shortens, your mind wants to explain or escape. Yet if you let the emotion exist without defense, something different happens. The energy begins to move, it rises, expands, fades, and then quiet returns. Nothing needed control, only permission. That permission is the essence of non-interference. True awareness does not suppress, it witnesses. In the language of quantum physics, this is the moment when observation stops collapsing possibility into limitation. The mind is a machine of collapse. It needs certainty to feel safe. But the field does not require certainty, it thrives in openness. When you learn to stay open, you allow infinite outcomes to organize around you. This is what mystics described as living in flow. Flow is not the result of perfect control, it is the result of ending the habit of control. The mind believes surrender means loss, but in the physics of consciousness, surrender is expansion. The more you release, the more the field can mirror your state without distortion. Life becomes an echo of your stillness. You begin to realize that everything you used to chase was already trying to reach you, but could not penetrate the turbulence of interference. When you soften the turbulence, you become permeable. possibilities find you naturally. This is not magic, it is resonance. When the internal rhythm stabilizes, the external pattern aligns. The observer that no longer manipulates reality invites coherence to take the lead. From this place, decisions appear without anxiety. You feel them as impulses arising from the body, not calculations of the mind. The body was designed to read the field through sensation. The heart is an antenna tuned to frequencies of harmony. The moment awareness stops interfering, the heart begins to lead. Its signals are subtle at first, a warmth in the chest when something aligns, a tightening when it does not. When you trust those sensations, reality becomes a conversation instead of a puzzle. You stop demanding answers and start listening to rhythm. The field guides through timing and feeling, not through logic. The silent observer understands this and moves only when the inner tide moves. This is why some paths open effortlessly while others remain closed, no matter how hard you push. Effort belongs to the interfering mind. Alignment belongs to awareness. The universe is never against you. It only mirrors the degree of coherence you hold. If you force, you create resistance. If you allow, you create flow. Non-interference is not passivity. It is intelligent cooperation with the field. It requires sensitivity to energy, subtle enough to sense movement before it manifests. You begin to feel shifts in the atmosphere long before events unfold. A conversation about to begin, a thought about to appear, an opportunity approaching. The observer senses the pattern and aligns ahead of time. This is living quantumly responding to vibration, not to circumstance. In this way, awareness becomes guidance. The more you trust this language, the less you rely on prediction or control. You begin to realize that the entire structure of reality is self-balancing. Every imbalance carries within it the impulse to correct itself. When you interfere, you slow that correction. When you allow, it accelerates. The silent observer is like gravity. It does nothing yet holds everything in order. To practice non-interference is to rest in gravity and let life revolve naturally around it. Stillness does not mean inactivity. It means absence of unnecessary movement. From this stillness, action arises with precision and purpose. Each word spoken carries weight. Each gesture aligns with truth. There is no wasted energy because nothing is done from fear. Fear always wants to fix. Awareness only wants to see. The next time you find yourself in tension, pause before reacting. Notice the urge to explain, justify, or escape. Feel the body begin to contract. Then stay. Do not follow the thought or suppress the feeling. Let it vibrate until it finishes. What remains after it ends is not emptiness but presence. You have witnessed energy return to neutrality. That neutrality is the door to freedom. You will discover that most suffering is not caused by life itself, but by the interference between life and perception. The mind wants to direct the film while awareness was meant to be the screen. When the screen forgets it is the background, it begins to act out the story. Remember, the screen does not need to do anything to reveal the image. It only needs to stay clear. This is the art of allowing. When awareness stays clear, the light of consciousness projects reality with perfect fidelity. In this clarity, creation becomes effortless. Events unfold like music following an unseen rhythm. You no longer push, you participate. Every moment becomes precise, every encounter meaningful. Life does not require your management, it requires your cooperation. The silent observer understands this dance and never interrupts the music. It knows that even apparent mistakes are part of the rhythm adjusting tempo so that harmony can return. The universe tunes itself through your state of being. When you interfere, you fall out of tune. When you witness, you vibrate in perfect pitch. This is the simplicity that the mind overlooks. Stop trying to steer the current, become the still depth beneath it. From there, even chaos sounds like a symphony. Noise is not the enemy, it is the echo of unintegrated energy asking to be heard. Every moment the mind reacts, it adds another layer of turbulence to the field. The noise is not out there, it is the internal vibration of resistance. When awareness becomes silent, the noise begins to collapse. Not because you fight it, but because there is nothing left to feed it. Interference requires attention. Without attention, it fades like waves returning to the sea. The collapse of noise is the birth of coherence. At first, this quiet may feel uncomfortable because the mind mistakes stillness for absence. It looks for familiar tension to confirm its identity. But when you remain in the stillness long enough, something profound happens. The nervous system begins to recalibrate. Breathing deepens the body, remembers safety, and energy starts to circulate freely again. This is the natural order of things. The universe does not need your command to restore balance. It only needs your permission to stop disturbing it. You can sense the exact moment when the noise begins to dissolve. The heartbeat slows, the pressure in, the chest loosens, thought loses its urgency. What once felt like chaos is revealed to be rhythm. The storm was never a sign of disorder, it was energy seeking integration. Awareness that does not resist becomes the container through which that integration occurs. Every emotion returns home when you allow it to complete its cycle. Fear becomes movement, trust becomes expansion, anger becomes clarity. None of these states are enemies. They are frequencies waiting for acknowledgement. The observer collapses noise by seeing through it. When you look directly into confusion without judgment, the pattern hidden within confusion becomes visible. It is like watching static on a screen that slowly forms an image once you stop looking away. The image was always there, but interference blurred it. This is why inner silence is not emptiness, it is revelation. It reveals the structure that noise was concealing. You begin to notice that underneath every painful thought lies a request for harmony. The thought is the sound, the silence is the answer. Each time you return to silence, you teach your field how to reorganize around peace. Gradually, this becomes the new baseline. The old habit of seeking drama loses magnetism. You do not need stimulation to feel alive because aliveness has become the quiet pulse beneath everything. People often ask how to silence the mind, but the mind cannot silence itself. It is awareness that quiets it through observation. The moment you see a thought completely, it dissolves. Not because you forced it away, but because it has been received. Every thought simply wants to be seen. When it is seen, it completes its purpose. This is the collapse of noise in its purest form. You begin to live from a frequency where thoughts arise softly like ripples on still water. They come to deliver information, then dissolve back into the depth from which they came. Nothing lingers because nothing is resisted. The same law governs emotion. An emotion unobserved becomes turbulence, an emotion witnessed becomes light. This is the mechanics of energy returning to coherence. It is not an esoteric process, it is biology. The cells of your body emit photons in response to your emotional state. When you are in resistance, the light flickers irregularly. When you are in acceptance, it flows in smooth patterns. You can feel this as warmth in the body or a subtle tingling behind the eyes. It is the language of light stabilizing inside you. When the noise collapses, the heart and brain begin to synchronize. This alignment creates a harmonic field around you that extends far beyond the skin. Others can sense it even if they cannot explain it. They feel calmer, more open, as if the air around you has softened. This is not performance, it is physics. Coherence is contagious. Your silence teaches the environment how to find its rhythm again. The field reads your signal and mirrors it back through synchronicities and ease. Problems begin to resolve in ways logic could not predict. This is how creation works through stillness. In silence, energy arranges itself without resistance. Every time you choose to remain quiet inside, conflict dissolves a little faster. Every time you stop reacting, the system resets closer to harmony. What once took months of analysis now takes minutes of awareness. This is evolution through perception. You are not changing events, you are changing the vibrational blueprint that creates them. Noise is density, coherence is transparency. As you become more transparent, light travels through you with less distortion. The body feels lighter, movement feels effortless, thought feels clean. You start to realize that struggle was never required for growth. Only awareness was. The collapse of noise does not make you detached from life. It makes you intimate with it. You hear the subtleties within sound, the spaces between words, the pauses in breath. The ordinary becomes extraordinary because you are fully present. In this depth of observation, every detail glows with meaning. Even discomfort becomes sacred because you know it is temporary movement toward greater order. Silence allows you to feel the intelligence behind motion. Nothing in existence is random. Every vibration seeks resolution. When you meet vibration with stillness, the resolution completes instantly. This is the secret of healing. The energy that once created pain now becomes the light that heals it. The same frequency that caused confusion becomes the awareness that ends it. There is no separation between wound and cure, only degrees of coherence. The deeper your stillness, the faster energy transforms. Eventually you stop waiting for peace as an event. You realize peace is the default once interference ends. From that realization comes a steady joy, not the kind that peaks and fades, but a quiet radiance that endures. You carry it into every interaction, every word, every silence. People feel it as trust. The world responds by softening in return. The collapse of noise inside you becomes harmony outside you. This is how the silent observer reshapes reality without effort. It is not through force, but through resonance. When noise ends, the song of creation can be heard again. And in that music, you recognize the original rhythm of your own being the one that existed before confusion, before thought, before time. Every reality you experience is a mirror, and the image you see is drawn not by circumstance, but by frequency. The field does not decide what to show you, it simply reflects the vibration you hold. What you call the world is awareness translating itself through form, adjusting its pattern according to your tone. When the inner field is chaotic, the reflection fragments. When it is coherent, everything begins to move with precision, as if an invisible intelligence arranges the smallest details in your favor. The mirror of the field is not moral, it is mathematical. It cannot lie, it cannot pretend. It echoes exactly what you emit down to the smallest pulse of emotion. Each thought is a signal sent into that vast reflective surface, and the moment it leaves you, it has already begun to return. This is why awareness is responsibility. You are not separate from what you perceive. You are the center through which it organizes itself. Every event, every meeting, every coincidence carries a trace of your own frequency. The person who irritates you does not appear by accident. They are a mirror showing you where your energy still trembles. The opportunities that seem to align effortlessly are not luck. They are resonance made visible. To understand this is to stop asking why and begin observing how. The moment you shift from blame to observation, the pattern begins to change. When you resist what you see, you feed it. When you witness it, you release it. The field does not punish it, balances. It is the geometry of consciousness maintaining equilibrium. In quantum terms, energy seeks the lowest resistance, the path of coherence. In human terms, it seeks awareness, the state where reaction ends and understanding begins. Every judgment sends a ripple through the mirror, distorting the reflection. Each moment of acceptance clears the surface again. You have seen this happen in small ways. When you approach someone with tension, they mirror defensiveness. When you approach with calm, their tone softens. That is the field adjusting in real time. The same rule applies at every scale, from conversation to destiny. The universe is a network of mirrors, layered infinitely, each one reflecting your state back to you from a different angle. When you finally understand that every reflection is your own light in disguise, gratitude becomes your natural posture. You stop demanding perfection from the world because you see that it has been showing you your own energy all along. This understanding dissolves the illusion of separation. And the critic and the praised, the loved and the rejected, all are frequencies playing through one instrument. Awareness does not choose sides, it only listens to the harmony or the dissonance. When you find yourself inside conflict, the key is not to fix the reflection, but to tune the vibration that created it. Ask quietly, what is the field mirroring to me now? Where in me is this frequency still alive? Do not rush to answer, simply feel. The body always knows before the mind interprets. A tightness in the chest, a heaviness in the stomach. These are the field's messages translated through biology. They are not punishments. They are coordinates leading you back to coherence. When you allow the sensation without judgment, you decode the message. The energy begins to shift and the reflection follows. The body is the most precise instrument of feedback the field has ever created. It mirrors the invisible currents long before they appear outside. Every breath you take is data exchange between your cells and the surrounding energy. When you are in alignment, breathing feels spacious and rhythmic. When you are out of alignment, it becomes shallow and erratic. Awareness of breath is awareness of the field itself. To live consciously is to read these micro signals instead of ignoring them. The field never stops communicating, but you must learn its language, the language of subtle vibration. Silence is grammar, emotion is tone, presence is meaning. The clearer your awareness, the more fluent the dialogue becomes. At this level, life stops being a sequence of random events and becomes a continuous conversation. You notice how timing words, even weather patterns, seem to align with your inner state. You think of someone and they appear. You release resentment and the obstacle resolves. These are not miracles, they are mirrors responding. The field always seeks coherence with your dominant frequency, not your passing thoughts, but the vibration you sustain when no one is watching. If your baseline is fear, reality must organize around it, because that is what keeps the equation balanced. If your baseline is trust, the same law applies and the reflection rearranges accordingly. This is why deep transformation requires stability rather than intensity. Temporary bursts of positivity cannot override long patterns of resistance. The field measures consistency, not enthusiasm. Each moment of presence strengthens coherence more than 1,000 declarations. The mirror listens to energy, not words. Awareness that observes without interfering sends a signal of pure order, and order attracts order. Gradually, chaos loses interest in you because you no longer feed its resonance. This is not avoidance, it is physics. The mirror can only reflect what remains in front of it. When you stop projecting fear, fear no longer appears. The more you practice this neutrality, the faster reality responds. You begin to witness how subtle the feedback loop truly is. A single thought of compassion softens an entire day. A single act of integrity realigns a sequence of events. The universe does not operate through punishment or reward, but through synchronization. Everything seeks to echo your core vibration. That is why awareness is not just spiritual practice, it is creative mastery. Every observation is a brushstroke on the canvas of existence. You paint with frequency and the field paints back with form. Once you understand this, the desire to control fades naturally. You no longer need to force outcomes when you know they will mirror your state precisely. Instead of asking for the world to change, you ask to see yourself clearly. That clarity itself becomes transformation. As the mirror clears perception and creation merge, the observer and the observed collapse into one continuum of light. You are not outside looking in, you are light folding back upon itself to know its own reflection. This realization does not inflate the ego, it dissolves it. You see that there is no personal power, only coherence flowing through the vessel of awareness. When that coherence becomes stable, life feels like effortless orchestration. Every encounter arrives in perfect timing, every challenge carries its own resolution, every silence hums with meaning. The mirror no longer feels separate from you, it feels like extension. You are both painter and painting, both signal and echo. The more deeply you live this truth, the less resistance you generate and the reflection grows clearer still. The field begins to reveal its intelligence in ways words cannot capture. You sense the choreography beneath coincidence, the geometry beneath emotion. You recognize that every face, every sound, every beam of light is awareness looking back at itself through a different angle of eternity. In that recognition, all seeking ends. The mirror becomes transparent, and what shines through it is not reflection, but the pure radiance of being, seeing itself everywhere. The body has always been the most honest witness of your consciousness. Long before you learned to translate feeling into words, your cells were already listening. Every heartbeat, every contraction, every sigh is the language through which the field communicates with you. The body is not an obstacle to awareness, it is the doorway. When you begin to notice its signals without judgment, you start to hear the conversation that has been happening all along between energy and matter. Each sensation carries information. Warmth, pressure, lightness, or pain are not random. They are messages from the field translated into biology. Most people have forgotten how to listen. They chase transcendence while ignoring the ground from which awareness rises. But awakening does not happen above the body, it happens through it. The field cannot reflect coherence if the instrument that receives it is out of tune. Your nervous system is the bridge between invisible frequency and visible experience. It is a living network of light fibers transmitting data faster than thought. When you are tense, that network contracts. When you are present, it expands. The degree of expansion determines how clearly you can read the field. Breath is the first signal. Every inhale draws information from the external field. Every exhale broadcasts your internal state. Shallow breathing is fragmented transmission. Deep rhythmic breathing creates resonance. This is why one calm person can shift the energy of an entire room. Their coherence becomes contagious because the electromagnetic field of the heart extends beyond the skin, merging with others and entraining them into harmony. The body is not a cage for spirit. It is a resonant instrument for creation. To live unconsciously is to let the instrument play dissonant notes without realizing you are the musician. To live as awareness is to tune it deliberately. You can feel when alignment happens. The spine straightens on its own, the shoulders drop, the eyes soften. These are signs that energy is flowing without resistance. The body knows this music. It remembers the rhythm of coherence. You have felt it in rare moments of peace when time seemed to dissolve and you were both still and fully alive. Those moments were not accidents, they were reminders of your natural state. When awareness descends into the body rather than escaping from it, a new intelligence awakens. Thought slows, perception sharpens, intuition becomes tangible. You begin to sense the subtle layers of energy beneath physical form. Temperature changes around you, the air feels dense or fluid depending on the vibration you hold. The boundary between inside and outside starts to blur. This is not imagination, it is perception returning to its original sensitivity. The body is designed to feel the field, just as the ear is designed to hear sound. But to access this ability, you must remove interference. Every suppressed emotion, every unresolved memory creates tension in the tissue. That tension acts like static noise, distorting the signal of field. When you bring awareness to a tense area without trying to fix it, you invite energy to move again. The muscle softens, breath deepens, warmth spreads. What was once pain becomes information flowing back into coherence. This is why true healing is not correction, but communication. The body heals when it is heard. Awareness acts as the listener that reestablishes connection between fragmented parts. You can practice this in simple ways. Sit quietly and place attention on a single point of sensation. Do not analyze it, do not name it, just observe its texture. Is it pulsing, tight, vibrating, cold? As you watch without interference, the quality begins to change. The sensation evolves, sometimes expanding, sometimes dissolving. What you are witnessing is energy reorganizing according to the clarity of your presence. Awareness acts like light. Wherever you shine, its structure aligns. Over time, this listening becomes second nature. You begin to notice tension the moment it appears and dissolve it before it solidifies into emotion or story. The body becomes transparent to energy, a clear conduit for information from the field. In that state, intuition is no longer mystical, it is biological. Signals travel freely through the nervous system and, without needing to think. The stomach tightens a split second before a wrong decision, the chest opens before truth. These are the mechanics of embodied wisdom. The mind was never meant to lead, it was meant to interpret the signals of the body once awareness has received them. When you trust this process, life simplifies. Decisions no longer depend on analysis, but on resonance. You move when the field feels open. You rest when it feels closed. There is no fear of missing opportunities because you understand that the field never withholds, it only synchronizes. The more coherent your body becomes, the faster it synchronizes. The delay between inner shift and outer reflection shortens until cause and effect feel instantaneous. This is embodiment of awareness. The moment consciousness and biology act as one current. The ancients spoke of the light body not as something separate, but as the physical form vibrating at the speed of coherence. The body does not transcend, it becomes luminous. Cells emit photons in patterns so orderly that they communicate beyond distance. When two coherent beings meet, their fields merge and recognition happens without words. You feel it as comfort, as resonance, as home. The entire universe is built on that principle of entrainment. Energy always seeks harmony. When your body returns to that harmony, it becomes a stabilizing force for others. You walk into spaces heavy with confusion and the air begins to clear. You speak few words, yet people feel lighter. This is not charisma or technique. It is the silent authority of coherence. The field reads your vibration and organizes itself accordingly. The body is the conduit through which this happens. The more you honor it, the stronger the transmission. This is why neglecting the body weakens spiritual clarity. You cannot sustain high frequency in an instrument you do not care for. Rest, nutrition, movement, and breath are not mundane tasks. They are acts of alignment. Every choice you make regarding the body communicates to the field whether you are ready to handle more light. Light requires structure. Awareness requires grounding. The deeper your roots, the higher your expansion. To inhabit your body fully is to anchor heaven into matter. When you breathe, when you move with intention, when you feel without resistance, you are teaching the universe how to translate energy into form. You are showing consciousness how to shape itself into balance. The field mirrors that lesson by surrounding you with synchronicity and flow. You become a walking example of harmony, not because you preach it, but because your biology sings it. The heart emits coherence that others can feel. The eyes transmit stillness that others can trust. The body itself becomes a prayer written in electromagnetic rhythm. This is what it means to live as the witness. Not an observer watching from above, but awareness, incarnate, translating the silence of the field into the movement of life. The more you embody this, the more natural it feels. Thought loses dominance, feeling regains intelligence, and every cell begins to remember the original frequency of creation. That memory is not ancient, it is immediate. It is the recognition that you were never separate from the field, you were its voice made flesh. To live as observation is to dissolve the illusion of the observer. It is the moment awareness stops standing behind life and starts moving as life itself. You no longer watch the breath, you become the rhythm of breathing. You no longer look for peace, you breathe as peace. The separation between the one who sees and what is seen collapses into a single pulse of consciousness. This is where the journey of the silent observer becomes embodiment. Observation is no longer an act. It is the atmosphere of your being. Everything that happens moves through you without leaving a trace. Joy and sorrow pass like wind through open branches. They are felt fully, yet do not define you. The field continues to mirror your state, but the reflection no longer disturbs the surface. You realize that the mirror was never outside, it was the inner geometry of perception. The world has always been your own vibration, translated into form. Living as observation means no longer trying to maintain awareness. You stop asking if you are present because presence has replaced identity. Life flows without the commentary of mind, yet intelligence deepens. Each moment arranges itself with mathematical precision. Timing becomes intuitive, speech effortless, movement graceful. There is no effort in alignment when you are the alignment itself. People imagine enlightenment as a state of detachment, but living as observation is the opposite.